வணக்கம். Welcome back to our course on SAP Materials Management. So for any procurement, whether we are buying outside from supplier or we are buying on subcontracting basis or we are producing in-house, the input is coming from the demand. That is the requirement coming from the market. Understanding the demand is important for planners, buyers. For both it is important. So it is same for consultant and PP consultants. In this session, we will discuss what is demand and what is the importance of balancing the demand and supply. Before going into the session, let us discuss answers for the previous session. What is a source list? A source list is a list of procurement sources such as vendors from where organizations buy their materials. What are the two types of sourcing methods? The sourcing may be a single source or multiple source. Single source means a company is buying from only one source. Multiple source means they are buying from more than one sources. A supplier is found to be non-performing and the organization needs him to be out of MRP or purchase orders. How to achieve this? So we can do this by using the block indicator in the source list. Can source list be created in mass for multiple materials? Yes. We can create source list for multiple materials in mass using transaction called ME05. What is source determination? Source determination is a method to find the most suitable source of supply for a purchasing need based on various sourcing information. So please go through the session we discussed in the last session. What are the other sources to determine source determination other than source list? So for source determination, we are using source list as the primary. What are the others? They are quota arrangement, scheduling agreement, and purchasing info record. So far we have discussed all master data required for the purchasing process and also related to some of the planning requirements. Now let us start the business process discussions. This starts with the demand. We have to understand what is demand. That is what we are going to discuss in this session. The general business process starts from the forecast for the materials what they are going to produce and also the sales plan. Based on these two, there is a production plan which will be created. But when we do the production plan, there are constraints. Constraint means there are some restrictions with respect to capacity of equipment and also capacity of warehouses. Considering these things, an affordable production plan will be created. Based on this, MRP, material requirements planning, will run. Based on this MRP output, materials will be procured from outside, stock will be received, and those things will be used to produce the finished product. This product will be sold to the customer. This is a general business process. In this, the input, what is coming from the market, the forecast and sales plan, they are called as the demand, and also they will be coming in the form of sales orders. So we discuss about demand. So what is demand? Demand refers to the amount of some goods or services which are the customers willing to buy by paying some amount. That is called demand. Demand may be anything. It may be goods or it may be service. Because a company may produce goods or a company may produce service. For example, it may be a computer or it may be mobile. It's a material. Or you are going to a hotel, you are staying there, right? That is a service they are providing. So a customer may be asking for a goods or services. That is a demand. Now the demands are two types. Any demand are two types. One is called independent demand. Another is called dependent demand. So let us discuss with some illustration here. This is the one bill of material where capital A is the finished product. Small letters A, B are the inputs. Subsequent inputs are there. BOM structure. Hope you can understand. In this, A is the independent demand which is required from the market. All other things which are used to produce this capital letter A, they are all dependent demands. Similarly, the other structure B, here the B is independent demand, all others are the independent demand. Now we are having the small letter A. which was earlier, it was a dependent demand for the product capital letter A, but now it is becoming independent because that is required in the market. So that is used in the product, it is also used in the market. So that is a independent demand in this structure. Similarly, the G is also required in the market for some requirement. So that is independent demand. Now, what are the things used to produce the K and N? They are become dependent demand. So it is not defined by the material whether it is a dependent demand or independent demand. It is decided by whether it is used or whether it is required by the market directly. That is called independent demand. If it is used in another product, it is becoming dependent demand, right? So a same material may be a dependent demand or it may be independent demand also. Now let us see the product structure and understand what are the demand types. Here maybe you should try to attend what are the independent demand, what are the dependent demands. So now this is the structure of a gear motor. This is a gearbox and motor combination where gear motor is there. A motor, gearbox, components are used to produce this. For gearbox, there is input subassembly, output subassembly, and components are used. For input, some components are used, output, some components are used. Right here, which is dependent, which is independent. Similarly, to produce a gearbox, we are having input, output. No, there is a requirement from market for the gearbox. So in this case, which is dependent, which is independent. Next is the motor. That is a market requirement is all there, and there are some components that is also market requirement there. So which means now these gear motor, gearbox, motor, and components, all these things are independent demands, right? Now the gearbox which was used in the gear motor, it was dependent demand there, but it is also acting as the independent demand when it is sold directly in the market. Similarly, a motor, when it was used in gear motor, it was dependent requirement. When it was sold in the market, it is becoming as an independent demand. Similarly, components, when they are used to produce the gear motor or the gearbox, they are the dependent demand. When they are sold as a spares into the market, they are called as the dependent demands. Okay. So this is the example that how we are classify dependent demand and independent demand, because this is important. Why? How the requirements are coming from, where do the requirement come from, those things you need to understand. So for that, there should be a clear understanding of what is dependent demand, what should be independent demand. Now we will understand that further the independent demand and dependent demand. Independent demands are the sales orders, long-term planning, sales and operations planning. These things are combined and created as the demand management. Okay, this is what is the independent demand. Now, the independent demand, the master production scheduling and material requirement planning, they will be happening. That is why the dependent demand will be created. And then Kanban is the consumption-based planning, which is the two-bin system. Now, after getting all these materials, production execution will be carried out. So, now the demand, right? When you are entering into the demand, you may be entering the demand in the example what we took. You may enter gear motor as the demand, or you may enter gearbox as the demand, or you may enter motor as the demand management. When system is running master scheduling or material requirement planning, it will export all the bill of materials, then work out the requirements. So a gearbox may be entered as independent demand, and also it will come as a dependent demand. Okay, so this clarity has to be there. So when you're handling the demand is the planning, right? Demand addressing the plan is the addressing the demand is the planning. So planning is not done just at the material requirement planning MRP. There are different levels are there. So one is the profitability analysis, where the organization will analyze which region, which product, which business is doing good. So they will work out what is the forecast, what is the sales analysis, those kind of things. And then there will be a sales and operations planning, which will be working out product group wise what is the plan, and then demand management, right? Each product wise what is the demand, in which the master scheduling long-term planning will happen. From here, material requirement planning will happen, based on which procurement, manufacturing, assembly, those things will happen. Please note that in each planning level, whatever it is going on, they will be going forward and backward. Okay, both it will happen. In the both the directions, there should be a clear feedback and communication has to be there. to ensure proper planning process. If there is no feedback coming from top to bottom or bottom to top, it will create a gap. The planning process will be disturbed. So demand management is the function to ensure availability for customer demand. That is what is important. Where you need to predict to what is to be produced and when it has to be produced. So it has to focus on sales, production, procurement, logistics, and finance. So optimized inventory will be well balanced utilization of capacity, right? We have to utilize the inventory properly and also we have to utilize the capacity properly, which means we have to meet the fluctuating demand with the right supply. So the demand and supply balancing is a main target for this demand management. So what are the goals of demand management, right? The goal should be a specific, measurable, achievable, realistic, timely. That is a SMART goal. So any goal for the demand management should be to improve the customer service at the same time reducing the replenishment lead time. That is the lead time to supply the customer and also the storage cost. So accordingly, we have to group the materials to arrive the strategy like there are some metal it may be made to stock, there are some metal it may be made to order, there are some metal it may be assembled to order. So those things we have to arrive. So the goals are what? The goals are to improve the customer service. So we have to define, for example, today my customer service is 60% only. I have to improve it to 70%, 75%. At the same time, my lead time should come down and also my storage cost should come down. So this is what we have to define as the goals for the demand management. A clear objectives have to be defined from these goals. So in SAP, to meet the demand, there are various elements are used. First is the consumption mode and logic, then planning strategies, and then availability check, then total replenishment lead time. These are the four elements used in handling the demand management. We'll discuss one by one. A consumption mode and logic. Here the consumption mode is maintained in MRP3 view. The consumption period is defined always in working period, right? So there is a consumption mode and there is a consumption period. That is from the current date, what is the number of days it has to consume the plan. So here, what is the consumption? Consumption means we are entering a plan into the system. So once we have some elements, for example, sales order or invoice something, it has to consume the plan. That is called consumption under consumption period. So what up to what period it has to consume? That is what we have to define. And what is the mode? Whether it has to go to backward or it has to go to backward and forward, or it has to do forward or it has to do forward and backward. These are the four options given in SAP. So these things will be more clear if you are working with the planning team. If you need more clarity, please work with them and understand them. But there is a concept of the plan. The system will take care of the order when it is booked. It will adjust the plan with the actual orders. That is the concept here. Okay. So when we are having this consumption now, that the backward, forward, other things, what are and also the period, what are the consumption elements there? The elements are when you are creating sales order, or when you are creating invoice, or it may be a dependent requirement, or it may be reservation. So all these things we can customize into configure into the system and define which are all the things to be considered in the consumption of the plan. So and the consumption will happen based on the requirement type. This is the configuration from the production planning and the SD point of view. You can discuss with those users and consultants. So next important point is the planning strategy. So planning strategy, right? I think we discussed earlier in a MRP discussion itself, Metal Master. There are three kind of planning strategies are there: make to stock, make to order, assemble to order. Make to stock means we produce the finished product and keep it in stock. So the stock will be always there. Whenever customer is placing the order, we will be immediately supply them from the stock. So the lead time will be less. Make to order means we produce the products, not produce the product. We will produce only after getting the order from the customer. But some of the companies, they may keep the components in stock, which is a lead time, so that they can reduce the overall lead time. But that depends on the organization. Then assemble to order is a concept where the sub-assemblies or some critical components will be always kept in the stock. Whenever the order is coming from the customer, they will be assembled and given. So like this, there are three kind of strategies or operating models generally followed in the business. So SAP is giving various options to operate these operating models. To operate all these operating models, SAP has given various options like planning strategy, which are combined with the requirement types for planning process. Also, there are requirement time from the customer point of view. These combinations will give a required planning and also how to meet these requirements coming from the customers. For example, to meet make to stock, the strategies 10 and 11 are used. For make to order, 20 is used. Similarly, there are other transactions also, other planning strategies also. Like 50 is a planning without final assembly, 52, 60, 63. Again, these are make to stock, make to order. There are various combinations are there. So you may please discuss with your planning counterparts as a user and also consultants to understand more about these planning strategies, requirement types, and also how they help to plan the materials to meet the demand from the market. So in demand management, next element is availability check. What is availability check? Availability check defines how the availability of metal has to be checked in different requirements. So this is a critical parameter which controls how the availability has to be checked and which elements to be checked, like sales, delivery, planning, etc. The master scheduler, MRP controller, of course, the buyers also should understand how availability check is done, planned, and committed for the orders. So this is the covered in MRP3 as a availability check parameter. So while checking the availability of the materials, system will compare what is the future supply, that is the expected inward movements, and what is the available inventory, and also what is the requirements, that is the expected outward movements. All those things it will be balancing, and also it will consider what is the total replenishment lead time of the materials. With these combination, system will give whether the metal is available to commit to a particular sales order or to a particular production order or to a particular delivery. So we can do the availability check in different stages. So the how to do the availability check, those things, I put a separate session in the PP course. If you are interested, you can refer that. So next is the replenishment lead time. So replenishment is the total replenishment lead time required before the product is completely available again. That is, after all the BOM level have been procured and produced. So this is the cumulative lead time to produce a material. That is called the replenishment lead time. This is also covered in MRP3 in the field highlighted here. To arrive at replenishment lead time, system will follow the logic for production items separately, for procure items separately. For production items, system will check first whether the replenishment lead time is maintained in MRP3 view. If it is there, it will take. If it is not there, it will go and take setup time, inter-operation time, processing time, and GR processing time in the or scheduling view. If it is not there, it will take the in-house production time and GR processing time in the at MRP2 view, right? This is how it will take the details for the replenishment lead time. For procurement items, system will take the planned delivery lead time and GR processing time maintained in the MRP2 view. That is how it will take. Okay, so this is to be clear again. So in this level, we discussed what is the definition of demand and what are the different types of demand, what are the different planning levels, and what are the different elements of demand management like consumption mode, planning strategy, availability check, and replenishment lead time. Now let us go to the quiz of this current session. What are the two types of demands? Can a metal have a dependent demand and also independent demand? Explain with an example. Planning is only metal requirements planning, true or false? What are the four directions of consumption of planning strategy? That is the consumption mode. Which are the elements consuming demand? Or which elements consume the demand? What are the elements considered in the availability check? And what is replenishment lead time? We will discuss the answers in the next session. In the next session, we will discuss how to manage demand in SAP. So far, we discussed what is the theory, right? Demand, what is demand and all. Next session, we'll discuss how to manage these things in SAP. Meanwhile, just to think about what is a demand from your experience, which are all independent demand, which are all dependent demand, etc. Please give your feedback to improve the flow and contents of your course. And also please suggest your friends and colleagues to subscribe to our channel to get the advantage of these knowledge sharing sessions. Thank you. Take care. Bye.